So a couple of things. I shoot with an XH1. I really like this camera. It looks really nice. I usually put the 16 1.4, I think that's what it is, on there. And then the kit lens, the 18 to 55. What I love about this is that it really has decent video. It has brought up the question, do I really need the XH2, XH2S in that format? We'll talk about that later. But there's a guy, I don't remember his name. I think his name is D. He has a YouTube channel. We all kind of watched YouTube over here, but he has a YouTube channel and it talks about like gear and how you don't really need gear. But it's funny because he gets gear from these places and he looks happy, he's testing it out. But I think everybody's happy when they test that gear for the very first time. He uses it. He says it works really well. I've had problems with low light and on the XH1 and trying to get shots done. I have a lot of problems with the autofocus from time to time. It's not every time, it's hit and miss. You're going to see a video here in a few minutes where I have the XH2 with the kit lens and it couldn't focus very well because it is kind of a little bit of a low light situation. There's a little bit of backlight in it, but for the most part, it's low light. The other part I like about the XH2 is it's super light. I mean, if you look at the trigger, I barely touch that trigger and boom, I can take a bunch of shots and not even realize it. One time I accidentally had it on going and I took like 50, 60 shots and didn't even realize it until I looked down and I was like, oh, I've been holding down this trigger too long. So it's really quiet. I really love it. And then the other problem with getting an XH2 is this. It might be lighter. It might be great for video specs. There's a lot of nice little things for autofocus. But I think the biggest problem is that CF Express card that they have. I'm just not a big video shooter. And for YouTube purposes or for even for some of the weddings, 4K on this isn't that great. But I still use the 4K here, for 30 frames per second and then or 24 frames per second. And then I use the XH3 for the rest of the video, and that's where I'm going to get into for the XH5. I'm sorry, XT5. They're coming out with this XT5, and I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But I just want to finish talking about the XH1 and how amazing it is. The second part is the 16 mil. You'll see it here. It doesn't have IBIS in it, so that's why I have the XH1 because it has a little bit of IBIS, and it helps with low light shots. The F1 has really good autofocus, great manual. I mean, the manual focus is amazing. I love how I can just dial in just right and do as I need to with it. And the last thing is the kit lens that I use. The kit lens that I use here is very perfect. It has IBIS in there with the XH1. It works really well, especially for video. I put a little bit of stabilization in DaVinci or in the Apple. I can't remember what it's called, but it works really well. It has what I need, and if I really, really, absolutely have like to move and everything, I use a gimbal, which I'll talk about later. I really love the gimbal that I have. I've been having problems recently trying to balance it, so I'm thinking the motors are probably getting out, but I really do like using a gimbal for these lightweight, especially XH1, super lightweight with the kit lens. All right, that's it for that part. Okay, the next part is talking about the XT5. With the XH2S and the XH2 and this XT5, so Fuji has definitely found what they want to do. One for video, one for photo. As far as I've watched and seen, the XH5 or XT5 looks like it has good video specs, just like XT3, XH1. I don't think it really you need very much. And they're saying that overheating is why they don't do a lot of the video specs, and then the CF Express card is why they don't do a lot of the video specs. Really, truthfully, I don't want to spend a lot of money. I have tons of SD cards, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on CF Express. I know that CF Express aren't. I haven't really seen it from any of the people that are friends of mine that use them where they've completely corrupted themselves, like SD cards. I know a lot of SD cards have corrupted themselves. But this XT5 looks impressive, but like a bunch of people have said in the past, I think it's just a ploy. It's a gimmick for them to sell more stuff. If you're a bad photographer, you're a bad photographer. If you're a good photographer, it doesn't really matter about the gear per se. And yes, gear matters, but if you've made it this long shooting with whatever gear you have as a wedding photographer, you don't need to upgrade. I think this whole process of needing to upgrade is just a ploy, a gimmick, and I don't see why I need to spend extra money on an XH2/S and an XT5. It might make my life a little bit easier as a wedding photographer, and I've heard people say, yeah, it's light years ahead. But as of right now, I've been doing well with what I have, and I just don't see the point in trying to upgrade. Now, if the cameras get stolen or the cameras are damaged, yes, of course, then I would probably upgrade to the latest and greatest thing. But if it's not broken right now, I don't see why I need to fix it. I think it's a really good camera. XT3, XH1, they're decent. I've worked around their autofocus. I think it's perfectly fine. So with that said, I hope you have a great night, great day, and we'll see you around. Bye.